All right, what's up, my brother? So in this video, we're going to be talking about paying on dates. There's a question of who should pay on dates, whether you should split the bill, whether he should pay the bill, or whether she should pay the bill. I'm going to read this post here for some frame and then offer some commentary on how I think stuff like this should be handled. This is a really, really good example, so pay attention here. He says, I'm 28, met a woman who's 28 as well on a dating app a couple weeks ago. We've been on 3 dates and everything's been going well so far except for one thing. She never offers to pay. The first date costs about 60 bucks altogether, which I paid, of course. The second date cost about 80, and when the bill came, I paused. She didn't say anything. I asked her what she wanted to do, and she still didn't say anything. And then I asked her to split it. The third date was about $100 altogether, and basically the same thing happened when the bill came. I then decided to address the elephant in the room and asked her what she thinks about paying for dates. We talked about it for a long time, and she never really reached an understanding. That's interesting. She says that she finds it attractive when the man pays and believes he should because it shows interest. I basically said the opposite. I find that it's attractive when the woman offers a split because it shows that she's interested in me and not just my wallet. To me, a relationship should have both people on equal footing, both contributing equally. And if I get a girlfriend, I want to feel like I earned her, not bought her. He closes with, I'm feeling very conflicted right now and not sure what to do. It would pain me to break things off over this because I quite like her and we've been getting along well in every other way. But I really don't want to be dating somebody who expects me to pay for everything, especially since she has a good job and probably makes just as much money as I do. Am I being unreasonable? Should I compromise on this? All right, so this is an interesting conversation because I've been the guy that wants to split the bill. You know, they used to call this going Dutch, or maybe they still do. And I've also been the guy that just pays for everything when I go out. And it really depends on what stage of life you are in and what belief system you subscribe to. Our friend over here, this gentleman, believes in the egalitarian soulmate sort of myth, where it's like, you know, we both contribute equally to everything. So I feel like, and I've said this before, it's, you know, guys that are more plugged into a feminine side and still a tool of the matrix sort of thing will often start sentences with I feel like, and he said that a few times, like I feel like, you know, we should just split the bill, or I'm being used for my wallet rather than her showing genuine interest in me. And that's a fair argument. You know, I've said in chapter 3 of my book, women that have genuine burning desire will basically break rules for you. So there's some weight to that, if that makes sense. So if you subscribe to a equalist mindset where we make the same amount of money, and that's one of the things that he points out is, you know, she has a good job and she makes the same amount of money, which is interesting because women are always, you know, all about feminism and, you know, we need to be equal and everybody gets paid the same for the same job and all that sort of stuff, which is fine. But when the bill comes, you know, they're busy looking at their phone or doing their makeup or something like that in a mirror. And of course, you know, like I mentioned, I did play that role when I was younger, where you kind of had the expectation that chicks would sort of contribute. And by the same token, you know, when you're a young man in your 20s, you're usually not making bucks deluxe. You're usually kind of making an average sort of middle class income if you're lucky at that time, especially if you're working a job. Job, by the way, I call it an acronym for just over broke. But you tend to have the expectation because you've been told your entire life, and especially for a younger guy in his 20s, I mean, I'm a lot older than that, but even in my 20s, I was still told at that time men and women are equal, feminism is good, blah, 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 and all that sort of stuff. You kind of had the expectation that women would pay for things. And I think when you're dealing with very attractive, more classy type of women that come from money, they sort of have that expectation in their 20s that you're going to pay for stuff. Even if they're subscribed to the notion of equalism, to feminism, and, you know, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They don't generally go Dutch. They sort of are used to being taken care of. Now, when you meet a lot of women on dating apps, let's be honest, there's not a lot of 9s and 10s on there. You're going to probably find yourself in a position where you're thinking to yourself, you know, we're about the same. She has about the same job. We're a pretty good fit. We have a lot of fun. Let's go out on a date. I'll spend 60 bucks. Doesn't really care about on the first date. The second date, the bill comes. He doesn't really say anything. He just kind of stares at her and she looks the other way. And then he brings it up on the third date. And probably by then she's starting to think that he's cheap. That's usually what's going through a chick's head at that time is, why is this guy so cheap? Why isn't he going to treat me like a woman when I should be treated like a woman? And they have all kinds of reasoning for it. I spent all this money on my hair, my nails. I took 3 hours to get ready, look pretty for him, blah, blah, blah sort of thing. So to the guy that's all about the equalism, here's what I would say. I would say if you're dealing with a woman like this and you're in your 20s and you're going out on dates and you spent 60, 80, and then $100, you've already blown well over 200 bucks at this time. I don't know what stage of the dating phase that you're at, whether or not she's expressed genuine desire, whether or not you've been intimate or any of those things. But generally speaking, you shouldn't be going out spending all kinds of money on all kinds of dates all the time. Dates don't have to be expensive. I've said this before, a first date for most guys, even for me, if I was gonna go out and start dating again, even for me, it would be easy. The first date would be like a drink or an hour, because for me, it's a sniff test. I don't want to get myself in a situation where I'm sitting down for several hours. She might be batshit crazy. She may not look like her photographs. There's any number of things that could happen. Lots of guys get catfished. It should be a quick and easy 1 hour thing. And it's as simple as you go out, you get a coffee. I would often recommend get a coffee, go for a stroll in the park. You get to walk around, you get some fresh air, you get to check her out as you're walking and really see what she's made of. There's lots of things that you can do in that hour time and conversations that you can have. Or if it's later on in the evening, patio, you can sit down, have a drink or two, something like that. But again, it's a quick hour. You can see what she's made of, see if she has genuine desire. It doesn't cost you a lot of money. A drink or two won't be a vast fortune in most restaurants or coffee shops, for example. So there's that. Then, by around the second or third date, start doing stuff that doesn't require going out and impressing her and spending a lot of money on bills. In fact, if you want to invite her over and do something like a dinner or a cheese fondue with a little bit of wine, that's cheap and easy. It's very easy to do. Plus, you have an opportunity to escalate things at that point if the timing might be right. She could also invite you over to her place, to do something for you, which would be a nice, generous offer as well. Now, the flip side of the coin, which is the place that I'm at today, is when I go out, my girlfriend doesn't pay for anything. It's like if we're going out to dinner, I'm not going to argue with her about who's paying. She's tried to pull this, before early on where it's like, well, let me get this one or let me treat you sort of thing. And it's like, if it's something special, like it's my birthday or something like that, then it's like, fine, I don't have a problem with her treating me. Personally, I'd rather her make a meal for me at the house because to me, that shows greater investment than taking me out and then just sitting down and buying me dinner. Like I can buy whatever the hell I want, right? So at this stage of the game, I want her to understand that my frame is the dominant frame in the relationship, and money happens to be part and parcel of that. Some people might be like, oh, you're buying her or whatever. And I'm going to tell you something. If you've done something with your life and you've become a man of some value, you've put a dent in the universe, and women view you as a guy that is at that level, that high value man, it shouldn't even be a conversation piece. To post stuff like this online, like, I like this girl and I've taken her out on 3 dates and she won't, pull out her wallet, that's pretty much most women, right? So in exchange for me taking her out, showing her a good time, providing in that sense, I expect her to reciprocate, but in other areas. When she's over at my place and maybe she stayed over for the night, does she make the bed in the morning? If she sees that there's some laundry, does she take the initiative and do it? If she sees that the dishwasher is clean, does she empty it? Does she become a compliment to my life, basically is what I'm saying. If I'm going to go and do that work, if I'm going to go and make the money, if I'm going to take her out and take her out to a nice sushi restaurant or out for an evening or something like that, if there's dressing up that's involved, I have no issue paying for it. It's not a big deal, especially, when you've gotten to the stage where you're an entrepreneur or you're a business owner. There's many different ways that you can run certain things as expenses. Client meals and entertainment, for example, seems to be a popular one. So it shouldn't be something that is contentious. Again, if you're providing some value and you're taking her out and you're treating her like a lady, good, but make sure that she's treating you like her man. Make sure she treats you like her king. Because if you're only, giving her value on one side of the equation, but she's not reciprocating somewhere else where she should be as a feminine woman, because there's blue jobs and there's pink jobs at that stage that I'm looking at. And a blue job for a man is taking her out on the date. A pink job for a woman might be, making me a coffee in the morning, for example. So these things need to balance themselves somewhere out in the universe, if you will. So I hope that offers some clarity and some feedback on that notion. I think it's an interesting conversation. And again, it all depends on your worldviews and your values. Younger guys like that, or guys that are all about going Dutch or splitting the bill, that's something to contemplate. You may or may not want to change that value or view and at least understand where she's coming from. But at the same time, working yourself in a position where, you can afford to treat a woman to take her out on a nice date and she reciprocates to you elsewhere, that's good.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.